Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Carnival of Shadows by Leslie Scott, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Settling into a normal rhythm was impossible. Ending each day alone, the house quiet, left me too much time to think. I stood at the wall of small mailboxes at the opening of the Crazy 8 mobile home park. The early morning Florida humidity caused beads of sweat to form at the base of my neck. But as I cradled the first utility bill since my grandmother's death, my entire body was cold. I traced a finger over her name, machine printed on the front of the envelope. The little dancing light bulb, the utility company's logo, didn't seem as happy as before. His smile mocked me. My grandmother wasn't coming back. She couldn't, because my mother had killed her. The paper made crinkling noises as my fingers tightened on the edges. Who'd have thought Mercia would be able to best Nola Blackwater? Not me. The momentary flash of rage that gripped me was so violent I shook, and the paper screen rattled in the envelope. "Hey, Tegan, know where Oliver is?" Anna Bentley popped up beside me, jerking me from my thoughts. She was still young enough that her voice chimed with a sing-song quality. She was barely old enough to drive. It wasn't that long ago that I'd been just like her. Now I was contemplating murder, and she was hustling my best friend for his latest shade of nail polish. By now he's probably at the office. My words came out tight and strangled. He wasn't a little while ago, but I guess I can check again." She turned to leave, but stopped to look back at me. "You coming? Today's the 1st. Rent is due." Busiest day at the mobile home park all month. I straightened the personal mail, shoved it under one arm, and pushed my key into the office box. "Oh, wow, what's that?" Anna ripped a bright red and yellow flyer from the announcement board. Ugh, just that stupid carnival. The carnival had taken nearly a week to set up. I'd spent the majority of that week at home loafing around in my pajamas. I'd earned a mini staycation after breaking a curse, freeing a spirit, and picking up the pieces of my social life. My mother murdered my grandmother. And then there was that. The elephant in my brain dancing around in a pink tutu and distracting me from everything else. Free carnival tickets spewed from the mailbox and fluttered all over the cement. I shook a few free from my foot, dug the mail out of the box, and slammed it shut. Definitely not my scene. "What do you want with Oliver, anyway?" Anna danced beside me, a bouncing ball of nervous energy, a far cry from the angry girl who'd almost summoned a demon a few weeks ago. Nothing really. He's been helping me out with something." "Wait a minute, shouldn't you be in school?" She rolled her eyes and jogged up the office steps ahead of me. "Not today. It's a virtual learning day." Oliver stood at the coffee pot chatting with a resident. Since most people still assumed my grandmother was missing, I expected the sad and curious gaze that the woman shot my way. Avoiding the well-meant pity, I waved and made my way to my desk to sort through bills. A much easier task than dealing with anyone's questions. Anna followed and rocked in front of the desk. When, several minutes later, she was still there, bouncing from foot to foot and engrossed in her smartphone, I caught Oliver's gaze. I made a pointed gesture with my chin. "What the hell am I supposed to do with her?" He clucked his tongue as the resident left through the front door. "Your daddy auto-pays his rent. What you need, Anna?" She flicked a glance at me and then back at Oliver before speaking under her breath. "You remember that thing we were talking about?" He gave her a saucy nudge with his elbow and plopped into the chair behind his desk. "How'd that go, anyway?" "Well," she took a deep breath and squirmed. I could do the noble thing and leave the room, but considering all the crap Anna Bentley had put me through the past few weeks, I wasn't going anywhere. She had my complete attention. "Tegan is good people. You can tell her about Tim or Tommy or whatever his name is." Oliver rubbed some lotion into his hands before adjusting his hair in the mirror that hung behind my desk. "She's had her own share of boy problems." Anna snorted. Barely 2 weeks ago, Anna was about to run off with her boyfriend, who intended to make her a virginal snack. I bit my tongue and didn't point out how very fast she'd moved on from the demi-demon she had been so melodramatically in love with. A brief mental flash of sexy Sean Carmack reminded me not to be too hard on her. Life happened a lot faster at 16. In your mid-20s, too. Her face fell and visible panic showed. Trevor, his name is Trevor. I shouldn't be here. You'll just think I'm crazy anyway. She was fighting tears as she made a quick dash to the door. Just forget it. Oliver and I locked eyes, and before she'd even got down the sidewalk, we chased after her. Crazy shit happened in Firewater Springs. There wasn't a lot I wouldn't believe. Anna, wait, Oliver called out. We reached her before she dashed into the single white trailer she shared with her father. I stopped at the steps, slightly winded, and Oliver headed her off. Anna, girl, you're running scared. Whatever it is, let us help you. He held the door open as she tried to jerk it closed. I didn't mean to. I don't even know how it happened. That doesn't sound good. My superhero senses were tingling. I held up a hand. Show me. No reason to coddle her. I'd already seen inside her mind, and she was made of sterner stuff than to be reduced to a sniveling child on a doorstep because I'd snapped at her. Head down, she stepped back and into the living room, letting us follow. A farm animal shrieked in protest from inside. I stepped in to see it bound from one piece of furniture to the other, a baby goat with a shocking pink coat and glittering little horns. Seeing me, it came running, baaing all the way before jumping at my legs as if wanting to be held. Not a normal reaction for a goat. That's Trevor. Or, at least, it was Trevor a few minutes ago? Her entire face had turned bright red, and she glanced, panic-stricken, from Oliver to me. Damn, this is new. Trevor? I lifted my brow, vaguely remembering a little girl's hair tangling in swing set chains when my magic had first manifested. The relief rushed across her expression as she and Oliver joined me in the living room. I think so? Anna rushed ahead as if she could somehow explain. We were making out, and he was kissing down my neck, and it made me think of Brian. I freaked, thinking maybe all of this was a mistake when wishing he would stop. Did you ask him to stop, or he didn't? Oliver's eyes went dark, and that dangerous edge appeared. It wasn't often I saw it, but when I did, it caused me to take a step back and gauge the man before me. He was protective of Anna, more as of late, and I'd seen what a protective Oliver could do. Trevor as hero meat was a less impressive idea than his current state. The goat in question quit his racket and instead headbutted Oliver's knees. No, oh no, not at all. I was about to say something, and when I looked... Her body froze, her eyes widened, and squeaked out in a whisper. He had no lips. They were just gone. No mouth. And he was making all this noise and freaking out, and I was freaking out, and when I see something freaky, I just squeeze my eyes shut to block it out and think about something not scary. She thrust her hands out at the pink goat who was glaring at her now as if goats could glare. And I opened them to this. Holy shit, Oliver glanced at me. I only summoned a spirit and locked it into a closet my first time. I twisted a kid named Jasmine's hair into the swing set, I added. Ruthless. I shouldn't have missed it when I'd crawled into her memories, and yet I did. It was well past time to get my shit together. You're a witch. A what? She jumped back, horrified. I didn't have time to argue with her. Poor Trevor would eventually forget he'd once been human, and well, that would be tragic. He was a stupid kid, but he didn't deserve this. And Anna, as much as she drove me crazy, didn't deserve to live with that guilt. Oliver, grab the goat, take him straight to my house, find something to tether him in the backyard with. There's a gator back there, Tegan. He glanced at me like I'd lost my mind. Arnold would realize that goat wasn't really a goat, right? We can't put him in my house. He'll... I scrunched my nose at the thought of goat poop. Just no. The bathroom, then. Better than the alternatives. That works. Come on, Anna. Let's clean this up and have a little chat. Okay. Her voice warbled. Okay. The scary part of my conversation with Anna Bentley was that after a few minutes to process, she wasn't the least bit confused or afraid. Instead, she stared up at me with large eyes filled with wonder and excitement. Long gone was the teenage girl that had given me grief at the Triple Dip. Things in this world aren't exactly what you think they are. Some people have talents that others do not. You, like me and Oliver, are one of those people. Finished cleaning the goat crap from her living room, we sat on swings across from my place, swinging gently as the day grew even warmer. I still kicked myself for having missed this, having missed what she was. Brian, the demi-demon's designs on her made more sense now. Virgin witches trumped mortal virgins in the sacrifice realm any day. Not to mention the alternatives if he was working with an actual demon. I swallowed back the bile that rose in my throat and pushed those thoughts away. There were worse fates in the paranormal world than being turned into a sparkling baby goat. "This is so cool," she whispered, finally looking away from me, a smile forming on her face. "I'm a witch." She'd just traumatized a guy beyond repair, and now I had to ungoat someone, and she thought it was cool? Reversing a hex was one of the more difficult things a witch could do. Thankfully, Nola had made damn sure I knew I was good at it. I pressed the palms of my hands to my eyes and groaned. "Anna, I need you to listen to me. There are consequences that go beyond just turning your boyfriend into neon livestock." "But you're going to fix him, right?" Maybe I shouldn't tell her I could. She could use a little sweating it out time. "Yeah, I am." With a kick of her legs, the girl sent the swing moving and the chains creaking. "Obviously, I didn't want him to lose his mouth or become a goat, but this is still cool." Not that long ago, I'd been her age, but I don't think I'd ever been excited by my birthright. The responsibility was intimidating, but knowing what lurked in the shadows was terrifying. I could hear Nola chiding me that we were no less predatory than other supernatural creatures. That we had chosen our side didn't make us any less dangerous. "Anna, you need to understand. Had we not been here, Trevor would be dead. You can cause great harm to yourself and those around you, not to mention what you could do to yourself." From 4th grade and my crush on Tyler Ducote and the incident with poor Jasmine's curls, my grandmother had beaten it into me that my power was a responsibility, a dangerous one at that. Anna was going to need someone to teach her control, to guide her. Already I wanted to pick the girl up and shake her until she got the point or bind her to her bedroom for the next century. Clearly I did not possess the patience to teach her much of anything. Another notch for the column of my failures, another way I'd never replace Nola. I can't do it. Plus, Mercia is still out there, capable of goddess knew what. Even if I wanted to teach Anna, doing so would be a failure of my better judgment. "You have to learn how to control your manifestations, how to funnel that magic into something useful." I pushed my own swing so that I swung in time with her. "No more accidental farm animals." "Unless you are the GOAT, she snorted a giggle. Obviously, Trevor was not the greatest of all time of kissing. Oliver swung the gate shut behind him and crossed the empty playground. "But he's in your bathroom sleeping. I think he wore himself out," which would make changing him back much easier. "I think reversing her spell is the easiest part of today." I stopped swinging and stood, but it makes sense. Of all the places in the world, Anna's dad was drawn here. Beneath Firewater Springs was a junction of ley lines, making this place a giant magical beacon for the supernatural. The best place for her. Oliver crossed his arms over his chest and jerked his chin down in a sage nod. Imagine if she'd pulled that shit on a boy back in Nebraska. I could argue that it was less likely she'd get wrapped up in demon business in Nebraska, but I was caught by the fact Oliver knew where Anna had lived before here. I didn't know that, and the Bentleys had been living in the Crazy Eight for a decade easily. Oliver was better with the residents than I was. Hell, he was better at everything people related. I needed a shovel for the pit of self-pity I was digging for myself. "It's hot and I'm hungry." Anna hopped off the swing in midair, sailing to her feet in that easy way of young people. "Can we find somewhere else to talk about this, maybe with snacks?" "Sure," Oliver rolled his shoulders. The idea hit me so suddenly I stopped swinging and nearly lost a shoe in the process. I was already annoyed with the kid, and Oliver was barely fazed. He seemed to actually enjoy being around her. Not to mention, if Anna's biggest need was control, then Oliver was the best person to teach her. When a man could rip open the veil between the living and the dead, block his power from reaching out to every spirit from here to the other side, he had control in spades. "Oliver, you could do it."